Alright, hello everybody. I'm Zach, and this is my first video um, for my professional road cycling race analysis YouTube account. And so, pretty much on this account, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about, um, you know, cycling races going on at this time, professional and so like right now the Tour de France. There's also the Tour of Austria, which I don't think I'll be talking about much, but the three Grand Tours, the Giro, the Vuelta, and the Tour, and also some of those 1 week stages and the classics. So right now we're kind of midway or a week or so into the Tour de France, and I'll be getting caught up on that and then going day to day with that. Hopefully, a video a day, but I might not be able to keep up with that. And then I'll keep going for as long as I want to. Um, so yeah, this is my first video, and in this video, I'm just gonna be kind of starting off with talking about the first 8 days of the Tour de France, and then just catching myself up. So thanks for listening, and can't wait to get started. Alright, so in stage one of the Tour de France is a 14K kilometer time trial from Dusseldorf to Dusseldorf. And so, for those of you who watched it, obviously, you saw how rainy it was and a very technical course, or semi-technical course. Alejandro Valverde crashed out along with Jan Izagirre. And Grant Thomas from Team Sky won the stage. But probably the story of the day was that Team Sky had 4 riders in the top 8. Chris Froome got 6th and gained over 30 seconds on just about all of his main rivals, including Port, Quintana, Contador, Bardet. So then that was stage 1, and then stage 2 was a sprint stage. I'm not sure I quite remember where that was from. Probably the biggest story of that day was Marcel Kittel getting the win, the first sprint stage. And then also a side story is that Chris Froome, Grant Thomas, and Romain Bardet all fell off their bikes on a slippery turn. All three of them near the front, and all seemed okay. Got back on their bikes and didn't lose any time. That was around with 40K to go. So stage 2. And then on stage 3, it finished with about like 1.6 kilometers of climbing. I think it was a Cat 3. Pretty much everyone was saying that it was set up for Peter Sagan, which eventually turned out exactly as we all predicted it to, with Peter Sagan taking the win over Dan Martin and Michael Matthews. So in that stage, though, what struck me, what I was most interested about was that with 800 meters to go, Richie Porte tried an attack and actually got a gap. And I don't think the commentators, or at least the NBC commentators, mentioned it, but it was really Alberto Contador that stabilized that gap. And Chris Froome was, I think, 25, 30 riders back and really couldn't do anything about it. So bad positioning by Sky, which is a rare mistake on their part. And so then, actually on that stage, Dan Martin, I think, gained around 6 seconds on the rest of his GC rivals because there's a 2 second gap between the first four to cross the line and everybody else, and then obviously Martin got third with the 4 second time bonus. Then stage 4, which has probably been the biggest story in the tour so far, is the sprint stage that Arnaud Demar ended up winning, but probably more importantly is that Peter Sagan and Mark Cavendish crashed in the last 100 meters or so. And it appears in video that Peter Sagan pretty much Cavendish was coming on the right side in between Sagan and the barriers, and Sagan kind of was fading to the right, and Cavendish tried to go through a gap that wasn't there. This is my point of view, and Sagan kind of kept going that way, and Cavendish fell into the barriers. Sagan was then DQ'd because of it looked like he pushed Cavendish with his elbow, which is something that I disagree with strongly, and I think that Sagan was only using his elbow to balance, and his elbow didn't even, or might have barely touched Cavendish, but definitely didn't force Cavendish to fall. And and then also Grant Thomas, who's still in yellow at that point, crashed with about a K to go, but also was fine. That Welsh mentality. And so then stage 5, La Planche de Belfi, the finish, the 5.9 kilometer climb, really the first GC stored out, other than the time trial, which was less climactic. And so with about 2.3K to go, Fabio Aru, Italian champion, attacks off the front, and Sky didn't really seem to take it seriously enough. I think Aru was around 40-some seconds back on Thomas, who was still in yellow. And then Aru goes on to win the stage by 18 seconds over Dan Martin. And then behind, Sky doing what they always do, and then Froome attacking. Initially, only Port, Martin, and Bardet could follow him with Aru still up the road. Quintana then dropped off. He was with those four, but then got dropped. And then as the four, Froome, Bardet, Port, and Martin kept going, Froome kind of pulled off the front, didn't really want to work, and then Martin took it up. But eventually Contador, actually a group of consisting of like Yates, Quintana, Contador, a few other riders that I'm just blanking on, kind of came in together, and Contador pretty much dragged that group up to Froome. And then Contador actually attacked, but then that was reeled in by Port. Port then attacked with about 250 meters to go, which was then covered by Martin and Froome. Martin then pushed past those two and gained around 10-ish seconds, 6-ish or something around there. Seconds on those two, and then Froome beat out Port on the sprint to the line, which then gave Froome the yellow, and I think Bardet finished after those four, including Aru, and then it kind of everybody else just trickled in. Stage 6 was another sprint day, won by Marcel Kittel by I think half a bike length. Pretty dominant from him, although at Quick Step his team didn't quite give him the perfect lead out. He surfed the wheels and was able to come out with the victory. Stage 7, probably one of if not the closest finish by two riders. Coming into the finish, Dimension Data, who was Mark Cavendish's team. Obviously, Cavendish crashed out. I don't know if I mentioned that he actually left the race because of injuries. He had a broken shoulder plate or something. So Dimension Data was leading it out for Edvald Boysenhagen, and pretty much he took the front with about 200 meters, 250 meters, and looked strong enough to win. And then Kittel just came up on his right side through a gap and was just able to lunge out on the line. I think beating him by like 0.0003 seconds, or just millimeters. And I mean, even the photo finish you couldn't tell. So that was a pretty cool stage. And then stage 8, which is today, July 8th, which is when I'm filming this, was probably one of the most interesting profile-wise stages that I've seen in a while from the tour organizers. And pretty much I think there was a Cat 2 and a Cat 3 before the penultimate climb, which was a Cat 1 11K 11.7K at like 6%, 6.8%, and then 13K of roughly flat roads, a little bit up and down, but mostly flat to the finish. And so what happened today is pretty much like hectic from the very beginning. 50-man break going up the road, which then settled to a group of 8, and then 35 behind, and then those 35 were eventually reeled in by Team Sky. From those 8, Lilian Calmejean won the stage in a solo breakaway. Pretty impressive. I think with about 6K to go, he had 38 seconds on Robert Hessink, who was chasing, and he cramped. Calmejean kind of cramped right as he was right as 6K came, and he just, like, you could see him stretching, but the commentators were going nuts. Um, and I mean, luckily for Kamajan, he was able to stretch out or pour water on it or something. I was able to go to the finish and win. And then about a K to go, Martin actually attacked from the GC group of 25 or 30, got a gap and reached some of the remains of the breakaway, but then was reeled in by Grant Thomas. And it wasn't actually talked about on TV much, but Martin, well, they talked about this, but Martin pretty much flew down this little downhill to the finish, and to me it looked like he was going to gain 20 seconds. I thought he could even end up taking yellow, but then once they got off of Lilian Calmajon at the finish, they showed pretty much just Grant Thomas briefly just absolutely yanking the peloton with him to get back up to Martin, which I thought was a great ride that they didn't really mention, but was still a really insane finish for the GC men, and then no one in the GC gained time. So I probably missed something there, misspoke about something, but that's my recap, my improv recap of the first 8 stages of the tour. And so yeah, thanks for listening to my first video, and subscribe and give this a like. So peace out.